Hi, this is Brandon with GEP340. I'm going to go ahead and go over quote number 3 again real quick, simply because I did have to make some updates to it because I forgot to show you my code. So that's what I'm going to start with. If you go over, I'm going to go over to my enemy controller. If you go over to my enemy controller here, you can see here where I equip weapon, random weapon. Over here, I set my target to the player. I use an input to set the directed velocity, but in order to compensate for some of the jittering problems with the acceleration, you have to compensate with it with that. And then here I'm going to set my input to I'm going to inverse the desired velocity, and then and then as the character moves, it's going to set the animator floats for the horizontal and vertical. And then after that, then that's how the player actually gets moving. Down here under the on animated, I set the agent's velocity to the animator velocity, set it equal to it, so that the nav mesh is actually working off the speed of the actual animation. Now, as far as equipping weapons goes, here's where he actually equips weapon. It's the exact same code that the player uses. It just instantiates a weapon when this function is called, and it gets rid of any old weapons if there happens to be any of them, things like that. And then here, though, is how I pick the weapon. For the enemy, I use the random weapon. I have a list of weapons, and then it just randomly rolls a number based from 0 to the length of the list. And that is actually called in the start function up in this location. And then my spawner here, how it works is it instantiates an enemy. I'm sorry, here it invokes in the end. There's an invoke repeating, so it's repeatedly invoking this, but I have set to a spawn delay, and it's just calling the function down over here. And then I'm going to go into this. Here we go. What I currently have here is if my current active enemies is less than max active enemies, it will spawn an enemy, and then it will increase the number of active enemies, and then it increases on the manager how many enemies there are, and then it puts a listener on them so that when they die, it knows that they die. So when they die, it can reduce the number of active enemies. And here I have a cancel invoke for when the manager, when the max number of enemies set on the manager is greater than or equal to the max number of enemies, or when the spawn number of enemies. And then if I go over here, this is the code I have to draw the gizmos, the stuff for the spawn points, all into play. That is currently all I have to show you here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up Unity. I'm going to play a quick round. I'm going to talk about what I have. So as you can see, the enemies move and they do spawn weapons at me, or projectiles. See here, they will spawn from their points. As I kill them, they'll continue to spawn. And they do attack with the weapon. They do attack with weapons. Okay. Anyway, as you witness, I'll go over to the navigation window. Here's the actual nav mesh setup for the enemies that they could use. That's what that looks like. And then the enemies do ragdoll. I don't know if I pointed that out. The enemies, when they die, they do ragdoll when they fall on the ground. So, and I do believe that's everything. Thank you for watching.